What's going on YouTube? So there are plenty of high-end flagship SUVs out there, but it's not advised to take most of them off-road.
But this Mercedes G-Wagon is certainly the exception to that rule. And for 2025, it's receiving some of the biggest updates it's ever had in its over 40-year history.
So, is this a great modernization of an iconic vehicle? Well, let's go ahead and find out. So as always, let's start out here with our spec dump. So all models get significant updates for 2025, and we do have some new powertrains on board as well. This is the G580, which is an electric model making 579 horsepower from a 116 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack and quad motor four-wheel drive.
Now, of course, we cannot wait to show you what that's like out on the road, as well as discuss all the other powertrain choices. While we're on that test drive, we'll be getting things like our sound level reading as well, and after that, discussing resale reliability.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood so we can look at the updates that Mercedes has made to the exterior as well as the interior first. Now, when it comes to the exterior design, Mercedes made radical changes. They just scrapped the entire... I'm just kidding. Of course they didn't. This is an iconic vehicle. This should never change because it's already perfect. So they just made some slight revisions. I do want to point out right from the top here though, no matter which of the powertrains you choose, you still get that very classic G-Wagon look. So up here in the front, we have a slightly revised grille. As you can see, we've got those four classic bars going across the front with our prominent Mercedes branding. You can get some night packages as well if you want more blacked out elements around the exterior of the vehicle. You also notice that on this electric 580, we don't have those big bars across the front. This is the first time that's actually been the case for the G-Wagon in the US. Now, coming over here to our headlights, again, you have that signature and iconic design with the round daytime running lights. Projector LEDs up there in the front, which are also adaptive. And then you've got those signature marker lights setting up here on the hood, giving it that very military-like appearance. Now, of course, as we move around to the back, there's just a certain design a G-Wagon's expected to have, and I don't anticipate that is ever going to change in a fundamental way.
No, it looks so good. It's so eye-catching. Now, they have actually made quite a few updates, though. You'll notice that our spare tire back here is actually not a spare tire here on the electric model, and instead, if you push this button, it's actually a storage area. It's designed to hold the charge cable. You can still get a spare tire if you desire to get that. Of course, the gas models will have the traditional circle design. Now, as far as your taillights are concerned, they are going to be a full LED unit, as you would expect out of a very expensive vehicle. So we have a brake light, a turn signal, and LED reverse light integrated into that one unit. And as far as towing is concerned, the G-Class can tow up to 7,700 pounds.
Now, before I talk about the wheels, I do want to mention, of course, your ground clearance. It's very important for an off-road capable vehicle such as this. You have at least 9.5 inches of ground clearance on all G-Wagons. You also have over 30 degrees of approach and departure angles. Plus, if you choose this 580, the electric model, this actually has the deepest fording depth available on any G-Wagon ever. Now, moving over here to our wheels, you have 19-inch alloy wheels. You can actually go up to 22-inch alloys as an option. As you can see, this is our 20-inch alloy with the kind of unique design, slightly more aerodynamic inspired than the typical G-Wagon design. Up above, you have a tiny little EQ for EQ technology, and then we have a nice gray finish up here on the mirrors themselves. Of course, they are fully loaded with all the features.
Now, the side is one of my favorite angles for the G-Wagon because it just has that signature look. You will mistake this for nothing else. Now, as far as vehicle length, it's about 190 inches long, and of course, it's very tall and very boxy. Now, when it comes to your safety systems, I'm also happy to tell you that Mercedes is actually including those as standard equipment here on the G-Wagon for 2025, so that's a nice upgrade, that's for sure. But there's also quite a few upgrades when it comes to the inside, so let's dive into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, now let's go ahead and check out the inside. First, we'll take a look at the key fob. It's your typical Mercedes key fob, nice high quality design, but new for 2025 is the fact that this actually has smart entry. So previously, this kind of old school door handle was preventing that feature from being added. Now Mercedes has integrated a sensor behind the door handle. So if you just grab behind that, that will unlock the door. Then you just press in on that little button that opens up the door. Of course, you still have that wonderful signature sound. You got the little pad there to lock the door. And I'm just going to shut it again because nothing else in the entire auto industry sounds like this. It just sounds like a vault. It's absolutely a wonderful feature of the G-Wagon. Now, let's talk about the inside. So as you can see at first glance, not a ton of design differences, but there are some different things that modernize the overall experience. First of all, I do want to talk about the seats. This is a fine Napa leather seat. Really beautiful look to this. We have a two-tone color scheme on board. You can actually get 63 different color combinations. So really anything you can dream of, you can have that color combination inside of the G-Wagon. We also have the blue stitching throughout the interior, and as we pan over here to the door trim, you'll see that this carbon fiber trim actually has blue weave inside of it. It's a really beautiful overall detail. Also over here on the door trim, we have our seat controls. You have a ton of adjustments, including a power thigh extension and a power headrest. Of course, you have memory seats as well, heating and ventilation, and power massage is an available feature. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now, from the moment you slam that beautiful door, you can see we have a gorgeous interior. Let's talk about the rest of the cabin materials. So I already discussed that carbon fiber trim. We also, of course, have leather running all through here as well as across the top part of the door trim. That will continue all across the upper dashboard, again with that blue stitching. We have our handle here with the carbon fiber trim. It's also the Edition 1 for the 580 model. Beautiful piece of real metal trim. Of course, the vents are also metal, and you've got more of that carbon fiber trim through there. Leather goes all the way down to the lowest parts of the interior in this vehicle. Let's go ahead and fire it up with the push button start. Now that's fired up, let's get into the gauge cluster. First of all, as always, you have a 12.3-inch full digital cluster. It does have some updated graphics this year. Each trim also has different themes, but you can still switch between all of these different types of configurations as in typical Mercedes model. Now there is no head-up display available. And then as we pull back to the steering wheel, this is one of the new characteristics of the interior because we've got the latest and greatest design on board. Flat bottom, of course, fully leather wrapped, including our airbag cover. It is power, tilt, and telescoping, and you also have steering wheel heating.
You have not subscribed to this service. To use it, you first have... What do you want to do?
Now let's turn over here and take a look at interior storage. Opening up our center console here, it has that split design, and you'll notice we have it filled with some donuts right now. That's because here at Car Confections, that is our logo, and we want to see the volume of the center console by putting the donuts inside. Today, this fits 10 donuts, so obviously that's going to be a little bit smaller than some of your other Mercedes vehicles and some other large SUVs, but not too bad. As I slide back that carbon fiber trim, we've got a wireless phone charging pad, 2 USB ports, and of course you've got your 2 cup holders. These, though, are climate controlled, so you have heating and ventilation for those. Now, there's no shifter right here. That's because, like all Mercedes products, we have the column mounted shifter. Push down for drive, push up for reverse. When you go into reverse, you've got this built-in camera system. This does have the 3D view as well, so you can go through and spin around the vehicle and take control like so. The graphics are really top-notch, some of the very best in the entire auto industry. And just press the P right there on the end of the stalk for park. Now, One of the nice things about this vehicle is just how tactile everything is. So they kept the climate controls, you know, fully physical, no touch screens or anything like that. It's a 3-zone automatic climate system. You just touch up and down like so with that. You also have your zones and your fan speeds located right inside of there. And again, these are really beautiful metal vents, which feels so nice in the hand. Now, in between the two vents, you'll notice that we've got some off-road buttons. So if you press that button right there, that's going to bring up some menus on the screen, which show you kind of the statistics and things that are going on with the off-road vehicle. Also, you can press that button. That gives you a special off-road view for that 360 camera, including a transparent hood view. And then these buttons right here are very special. So even the electric model does have low range, but it also has a trick up its sleeve that the standard G-Wagon cannot do, and that's a feature called tank turn. So you can actually press these buttons and you can have the vehicle spin around really quickly. I'm sure you've probably seen it on the internet because it really took the internet by storm. It's a super cool thing that's actually very useful off-road as well to make really tight maneuvers. Now, rising above and taking a look at our infotainment screen, this is a big adjustment that will really be nice for owners in the day-to-day life with this vehicle because it now has the latest and greatest MBUX system on board. That means you've got all of Mercedes' latest technologies. You also have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and overall performance of this system is very speedy. Now, I also want to, of course, give you guys a sound sample of the Burmester sound system. So let's go and do that right now. Of course, as you would expect, the sound quality is very good. All right, up top here, we've got the auto dimming mirror, beautiful Dynamica suede headliner, and then last but certainly not least, you have a standard size sunroof.
Now let's talk about the G-Class's rear seat. Now, the really amazing thing about this vehicle is, of course, you feel special sitting back here, but also that you have a lot of space. Now, as far as the legroom and headroom figures, let's dive into that first. We're sitting at about 40 inches of legroom and 40 inches of headroom. Really, the headroom is what I notice the most because, of course, this is a big box on the outside. That means it feels very open and airy here in the second row. Now, is it as good as a GLS, for instance? Absolutely not. This is definitely going to be quite a bit smaller and have less features overall. Now, speaking of those features, let's dive into that. So here in the center, we do have our own vents. We also have our own zone of climate, like Drew was mentioning in the front. Everything is really tactile, feels nice, and is wrapped in a full leather all through here. We have 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt outlet. And then if you look at the B-pillar, you'll find a vent. That's going to be in addition to ones you have in the center. And then over on the door trim, no rear window sunshades, but this door trim is beautiful, guys. It is leather from literally top to bottom. All the way down to the bottom is covered in leather. You have more of that beautiful carbon fiber. You also notice a button on the door, and that's for the heated rear seats. Heated rear seats are actually standard equipment on every single G-Class, and you also have quite a bit of storage underneath. The seats themselves do recline a little bit, so you kind of have to, well, actually, that's the maximum recline they have, so you just use that little lever. That's how it reclines, and also there's a little strap here on the side if you want to fold up the seat bottom. That's, of course, going to help you maximize your overall cargo space. Now, if you're not familiar with the G-Class, this might be surprising to you because, well, we have a side-opening manual tailgate, so no kicking or anything fancy like that. You're just going to open it yourself. I love the traditional feel of this vehicle. Now, of course, it does have that hydraulic arm there that helps you to open it nice and easy. And I do just want to point out some of the small details like the leather grab handle back here and the full leather pad. It's stuff like that that makes me really appreciate the G-Wagon. Now, let's go ahead and talk about how much space you're going to find. You'll find about 38 cubic feet of space behind the second row of seats. If I fold those seats down, we have a maximum of around 70 cubic feet. Once again, That's not as big as a GLS, for instance, so keep that in mind, but I don't think many G-Wagon owners are really looking to haul too much. You probably have another Escalade or something like that that you might be able to haul some other things in. Now, as far as the seats, they do fold 60-40 split, and you also have a little pass-through there if you want to keep the seats up. There are not any handles to do it from the cargo area, so I will have to go do it from the second row. And now that I've got those seats folded down, do be aware it's not going to fold completely flat with the floor, and there is also that seat kind of impeding on our overall cargo length figure, but let's go ahead and see how much length, width, and height there is. So behind where the second row kind of folds in, we're looking at about 61 inches of cargo length. That's not going to be a ton of length. From behind the second row, expect about 33 inches of length. As far as width, that comes in at 39 inches wide, but the height is really what I'm sure you're curious about. It's a lot. Let's see, 43 inches high. That is the tallest trunk in the back that I've ever experienced, that is for sure. Now, of course, you do have the ability to get that spare tire. Nothing's going to be integrated underneath of the floor. It's going to be integrated actually on the back of the vehicle. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of this new G-Class. Of course, in this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a bit, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting our sound level reading. But first, we want to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
Well, that was fast. I expected as much, considering that this has 579 horsepower and over 800 pound-feet of torque.
859.
Yes. So obviously that is a lot of torque. It's actually significantly more than even the G63 AMG. So of course, you've seen throughout this is the 580 with EQ technology. It's a fully electric product. Kind of previously, everyone thought it was going to be called the EQG, but this is the name that they decided to go with. And I think that makes sense because overall, it's a pretty classic experience. You even have the kind of V8 sound when you accelerate.
Yeah, that is due to some noise enhancement. You can turn that on and off, but this thing is really quick. As you saw from that acceleration, it goes 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. Now, that's not the fastest G-Class to 60, so keep that in mind. You do still have the G63, which has the handcrafted 4-liter bi-turbo V8. It also has EQ boost, 577 horsepower on that, 627 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60, 4.2 seconds. Now, news this year is the fact that the G550 is no longer a V8. It is a inline 6-cylinder. So take what you will from that. I'm probably a little disappointed by that, but we have not been behind the wheel of the G550, so I'll reserve my final opinions for later on. That's a 3-liter turbo inline 6, 443 horsepower, 413 pound-feet of torque. And that's going to be the slowest to 60 at 5.3 seconds. But certainly 5.3 seconds to 60 in a big box tank like this feels actually quite fast.
Yeah, they're all really, really quick, that's for sure. Yeah, hopefully it picks up on camera, but this sound effect in the sport mode is quite loud. I mean, really it does legitimately give you that kind of deep V8 sound that you might normally be missing maybe from the G550 or the G63. It does a really quite good job of emulating that.
Yeah, certainly. I'm actually quite impressed by that. I think I would normally leave that on, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the traditional gas models, you will have a 9-speed automatic transmission. Of course, you have 4-wheel drive as well. This electric model does not have a traditional transmission as expected. It's actually a quad-motor all-wheel drive system.
One of the fun facts about this vehicle is that since you have low range and you have 4 independent electric motors, each one of those does technically have its own transmission. So you could say this has 4 transmissions on this model.
But now that we're finally clearing out of traffic, I want to take a second to discuss ride quality for this G-Wagon. Now, when it comes to this area, I am very impressed with what Mercedes has done. This does feel, even though this is the electric version, very much like a traditional G-Class when it comes to ride quality. You're, of course, going to soak up those bumps really nicely, and I have to say, even though it does have that truck-like feel that every G-Class buyer is going to want, it does a great job of really, minimizing how much intrusion is coming into the cabin and soaking up those vibrations that a lot of times you can feel in a truck like this.
Yeah, it does have adaptive dampers, which certainly helps out overall.
So we are going to accelerate here to 55 miles per hour. We have our fan speed on 1, and the G-Roar sound experience has been turned off so we can get an accurate sound level reading, see how quiet this flagship is. .6 decibels seems to be where we have settled in at for this all-new G580. Now, of course, this is a really big, boxy vehicle, so honestly, anything under 60, I'm pretty impressed by, because this, of course, is not aerodynamically inspired in its overall shape, so that's actually a pretty good sound level reading. I don't have to sit here and guess, though. I can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings, and on our website, we posted all of the cars that this vehicle competes with. And among other EVs, that does put this on the louder end, but like I mentioned, of course, this is a big box, and you wouldn't want that to change, because that's one of my favorite things about this car is just the overall driving position. Drew can talk about this as well, but when you're in this vehicle, you're sitting up so tall. It's a lot taller than most vehicles on the road. You have just abundance of glass around you, and you do feel like you're seriously in a tank.
Now, of course, going around that corner, this is a pretty tall and boxy SUV. It is not designed to be particularly sporty when cornering. However, it handles itself pretty well. Obviously, there's going to be some present body roll. One of the things that Mason was talking about earlier that he thought was cool is the fact that the bolsters do inflate to keep your body kind of level even against the body roll when you're going around sharp corners. That's really cool.
Yeah, it totally did that around that corner, and it actually held me quite, straight and center as I went around that corner, that's for sure. And lastly, as far as some of the housekeeping items you might be interested in, let's talk about fuel economy. So we're either sitting at 18 miles a gallon combined for the new inline-six G550, 15 miles a gallon combined for the G63 model, and of course, your most efficient option would probably be to, buy this electric version. That's going to increase, of course, the average cost per mile. And overall range on this, how far you can go on a charge, is 239 miles, which I don't think is too bad of a range figure, that's for sure. I'd say the average G-Class buyer is not taking it on extensively long road trips where that's going to be much of a problem. Probably driving around Beverly Hills, which is what made this car quite popular, and that's where you see a ton of them, and I think that's more than enough range for the average owner. Other things you might be interested in for this electric one specifically is how big the battery is. It's 116 kilowatt hours, and it charges at 200 kilowatts of speed. So it's a decently fast charging EV. It's not going to be like the fastest one out there, but once again, I don't think that's going to matter too much to most buyers. They'll probably be home charging for the most part.
Now for today's Slam Dunk and Airball. I'll start with the Slam Dunk, and that's just the fact that, like we were talking about in the introduction, modernizing an iconic vehicle is always kind of challenging, but I think they really have done it. The tweaks that they added just to give this a little bit more of a modern twist have not impacted the classic iconic feel that you have behind the wheel. Even this electric version really does still have that iconic classic G-Wagon feel behind the wheel, and that's really quite impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this car, and I'm glad they didn't mess too much with success, that's for sure. Now, on the Airball side of things, really the main thing that we can come up with to Airball is that range figure and the price, of course. The price has risen per usual in G-Class form, and the range is not fantastic. So if you are looking for this electric one specifically, I think you might be a little disappointed by the overall figure. And it does start at around $161,000. We'll talk about the pricing for the rest of the G-Class lineup in just a little bit. And as far as last things worth mentioning, we do have a 4-year, 50,000-mile both basic and powertrain warranty for this Mercedes. And let's talk pricing for the G-Class. Now, we do start at under $150,000 for the base G550, $148,250. The G580, so the electric version, like what we have today, starts at $161,000, and then the G63 is going to be about $185,000 as a starting point. Now, as you can see, we have the G580, $161,000. We also have the first edition, so edition 1. That means that we have some exclusive elements like the manufacturer interior, as you saw. We also have a couple other options and the $4,000 paint job. We're sitting at $185,830 as tested today. Now, if you're looking to buy a G-Wagon or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a car is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. Now, first up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this G-Wagon's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 41.1% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 17%. Now, a couple things worth noting here. So that is lower than industry average for all resale value percentages. However, when it comes to specialized vehicles like this G-Wagon, they do actually tend to retain a higher than average resale value. Keep in mind that this is for Mercedes as a whole. I would actually expect your resale for this G-Wagon to be a little bit higher.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you a more holistic picture. In this regard, Mercedes rates just a bit below the overall industry average for all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our reliability and resale data, as well as our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of this very special, refreshed 2025 Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Now, if you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to get the latest car reviews such as this. And keep in mind, on this channel, we review everything from G-Classes all the way down to Mitsubishi Mirages. So whatever you're looking for, we have it on this channel. Also, I do want to point out, currently at the time of us making this video, this vehicle is available for sale. So if you want this specific combo, reach out to James Motor Company. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.